In this video, I'm going to be answering one of the most pressing questions that I constantly get on this channel. Dan, what is dropshipping? How do I get involved? And more than anything, how does it work? Now, before we get started, if you want the magical dropshipping fairy to come and put $684,9,643,000,000 in your bank account tomorrow morning, click a like on this video. And if you don't want them to do that, I got nothing. I can't close this joke out. So needless to say, it's probably in your best interest to give this video a thumbs up. Now, some of the questions that I get all the time is, Dan, what is dropshipping? How can I make money? Where do I source products? Basically, what is it? You always talk about it. Your channel is based on it. Can you give us a little bit more info? And actually, yes, I can. So what is dropshipping? Dropshipping is just another way of saying a middleman. Now, here's what I want to say, and this is going to be very controversial. A dropshipper is not an entrepreneur. A dropshipper is a businessman. There's a very big difference there. Does that really matter? No, but I wanted to go ahead and say that anyway because I want that clear distinction out there. So essentially, you're acting as a middleman from a supplier of a product to the buyer, a consumer, a customer of a certain product. So let me give it to you in the best way that I could explain. Let's just say we have an iPhone right here, right? So an iPhone is manufactured in China by a certain supplier. However, you can still pick it up at a store like Best Buy. However, it comes from Apple. So Best Buy becomes a middleman. And let's just say that Apple buys the iPhone for $100 and they sell it to Best Buy for $500 and Best Buy sells it for $1,000. If Best Buy sells it for $1,000, they keep that $500 profit margin because they bought it from Apple at $500. However, Apple makes $400 because it cost them $100 and they sold it to Best Buy for $500. Essentially what you're doing is you're doing that for generic products and any product except obviously trademarked ones, and you're doing that utilizing sources like Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook ads, etc. So you're the middleman to other people's products and then you just sell them to the consumer and you keep the margin after the ad spend and the product cost. It's a very simple business model. Now, what platform does this work on? How do you create a site? How does this all work? Well, there's a very well-known platform called Shopify, and there's others like Magento and WooCommerce. But for simplicity purposes, we'll talk about Shopify. Shopify is very clean, very easy to create a site on, and I'm not going to sit here and sell you on Shopify because Shopify, all it is a way for you to go ahead and host your own e-commerce website. They do all the product hosting for you, the image hosting for you. They go ahead and they sign up with payment providers for you, if applicable in your country. And it links everything up for you in one centralized location, making it a lot easier for people like you and myself to go out there and create a store rather rapidly. But a lot of people will say, okay, why don't I use another platform other than Shopify? Well, Shopify is very easy for the user. If you're a complete beginner, that's more so what Shopify is set up for, is beginners, people who want to get going rather fast. The sign-up process takes less than 2 minutes, and it's very cookie cutter when it comes to a website. Does it work? Absolutely. Is it very easy to use? Absolutely. Can you get up and running in record-breaking time? Absolutely. But the platform you want to use doesn't necessarily have a huge impact on your sales or how much money you make. That has a lot more to do with your advertising, what products you advertise, and who you're advertising to, and where you're advertising. So again, that is the platform you can use. Very easy. You can run a quick search, or there might be a link in the description. I don't know. Just you can run a search. I don't have anything to do with Shopify and their affiliate stuff. So you can find it on your own if you want. And now the next question becomes sourcing. Dan, how does the sourcing work exactly? Where do I find these products for X amount that I can sell for X amount? Well, that's a great question. There's a lot of different sourcing supplier sites, but it really comes down to what makes you feel the most comfortable. For example, the biggest one is AliExpress. However, if we're looking at a comparable Amazon to what is there in comparison to Amazon for suppliers, it would actually be Taobao. Fun fact, there's around 300 million paying customers on Amazon with their credit cards in their account, and there's roughly 685 or 687 million on Taobao. However, unless you speak the language of Mandarin or some form of Chinese that is on Taobao, I sound really uncultured when I say it like that, But again, unless I think it's in Mandarin, you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I know I'll get belittled for it, but it's okay. This video is to inform you and help you. But it's really hard to navigate Taobao unless you speak that language. And more than anything, they're the Amazon of China. So you could use them to find really cheap products and then have them shipped to the US. But for simplicity purposes, AliExpress is where you're going to want to play. That's where all of us play. That's where we all go and look. But there's other sites like DHgate that you can use as well, which again is a competitor to AliExpress. And this is where you're going to be able to find products for really good prices. However, you have to make sure that the quality is good. How do you make sure the quality is good? Well, you look at the feedback. There's a bunch of feedback on every single product, typically. When you run a search, you can find a product, and then you go down to the bottom, you click feedback, you can see with or without pictures. And that is really helpful because you can see the quality and what people say from purchasing on AliExpress. Now, one of the biggest drawbacks from purchasing on AliExpress is the actual shipping time. And there's no way to possibly hide that. So the shipping time will take anywhere, depending on the product, from 7 all the way up to 22 or 23 days. And again, that's a long time to wait for shipping. But again, that's where strategies and techniques come in to get your customers to keep on purchasing from you and have them be okay with waiting that long. Again, that's more nitty gritty. That's way out of the scope of this video because this is more so of a beginner video. So next we have the question, okay, Dan, I have the source, which is AliExpress. I have my product that I know I want to sell. I have my store on Shopify. What next? How do I get sales? Well, there's a few different avenues that you can use here. And again, this is way past the scope of this video, but I want to give you ideas that can help you and get your brain juices flowing. Number one, you have business.facebook.com. And this is Facebook ads, as a lot of people know it. So Facebook ads is probably the go-to. And inside of Facebook ads, you have the ability to advertise on Instagram and through various different apps as well that is in their audience network. You can advertise natively on Facebook, you can advertise natively on Instagram, you can advertise natively on their audience network. And again, Facebook offers a lot of advertising, you have a lot of impressions, and there's around 6 million active advertisers if I last checked this year in 2019. So when it comes down to it, Facebook is a great source. However, I would tell you to keep your options open with sources like Snapchat, Pinterest. Pinterest is great. Here's the thing, women love to buy stuff, right? Yes, they do. So women like to buy stuff. And the best place to find women that like to buy stuff and they're constantly browsing is Pinterest. However, there's a cap to Pinterest. There's really no cap to Facebook. There's a cap to Snapchat, a lot of sales, really cheap, but there's a cap, different audience. So again, there's so many different sources that you can use. You can even utilize Instagram influencers, but you got to make sure they're real, right? Because again, we all saw what happened with those 36 sales with 2 million followers. But there's so much that goes into Instagram influencers. So the avenue that you use to go ahead and sell your products could be Facebook, Snapchat. You can use Bing, you can use Google, you can use Pinterest. There's so many different sources that you can use. What I would suggest is focusing on one, mastering one, and then move on out. I know a lot of people when they first start, they'll try Snapchat, Bing, Google, Facebook. They use influencers, and they're like, oh my goodness, I'm making some sales, I'm breaking even, but I'm not making a lot of money. It's because you're not really focused on one. And a lot of people typically don't focus on one source, and they try everything and anything under the sun. Focus on one, master one, and just with one source alone, you can make an incredible amount of profit. And last but not least, let's talk about profit margins. There's different realms of profit margins, which not a lot of people understand. If you're making like $200, $300, $400 a day, your profit margins could be anywhere from like 40 to 60%. Now, the problem is this thing called scale. Now, what scale is taking $400, $500, $600 a day to $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 plus every single day. That's scaling. And the thing with scaling is you get more revenue, but your profit percentage drops. And this is what not a lot of dropshippers really understand, is that if you have a 40% profit margin at $500 a day, you might only have a 25% profit margin at $5,000 a day, but you're doing more money, right? So at the end of the day, what you need to make sure as a dropshipper, you need to focus on percentage points rather than revenue. Because if a business shows $10 million, but they only kept 1 million, and another business shows 2 million and they kept 1.5, that's a whole different story. I'd rather make 1.5 with 2 than 1 with 10. So it comes back down to, do you know your numbers? As a dropshipper, at the end of the day, you need to make sure you understand your profit margins. Very, very important. If you don't get your profit margins, if you're making 10% of $100,000 every day, or you're making 60% of, let's just say, I don't know, $30,000 a day, you're gonna have to see which one's more viable. And again, I don't know if those are the exact numbers, one outweighs another, but that's kind of what you have to keep in mind. So again, there's a lot of different variables that come into dropshipping, and especially ones that you should take into account. I recently made a video talking about how dropshipping is harder than ever, and you can take a look at that video right over here. If you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe with notifications on so you're first one here and can watch all these amazing videos that I release for you. And Dan Fam Notification Squad, watch this video, subscribe, and if you haven't done so yet, smash the like button or else you won't have a gazillion dollars in your dropshipping account. I don't know. Smash the like button. Catch you guys soon.